water glasses.
With that, welcome into
we normally cheers each other.
That's fine. You guys are alcoholics. I'm not, so.
welcome into another edition of Road Tripping with RJ and Channing. And tonight, our guest, I'm your host, is the one and only James Jones. No one calls him that.
Nope.
Champ.
Does. Not even my mom. My name is Champ.
Your mom calls you Champ?
She calls me Champ.
She's the real
She likes
MVP.
the ring of it. She messed
She
up.
She wants those checks to keep coming.
Oh, without a doubt. She wants her bills paid on time, and she gets it.
Listen, I knew you as James. I'm going to refer to you always as
right.
James.
And then your other tooth will be missing. You keep it up.
It's not missing. It's just having to die.
Happened to die?
Champ, we've talked about the story as to how you are nicknamed, why you're nicknamed Champ, but let's hear it from you yourself.
There's a bunch of different stories how the story started, but it really, when we're down in Miami, that first year when Bron and Chris Bosh came down to Miami with D-Wade and they had the big three, I was in the three-point contest that year, and so I was training for it, and after I won it, I was in the gym every day before, and they're like, Champ, you going to win it? I was like, yeah, I'll win it for sure. Back then, everybody called me JJ. So you going to win it? I was like, yeah, I'll win it for sure. It'll be easy. And knowing that Ray was in it and Paul was in it, Ray was someone I grew up admiring, and I had the opportunity to shoot against him, and I couldn't wait. And so when I won it, when we came back, our first practice, Dave Fisdale, the coach for the Grizzlies, came in and started screaming, "The champ is here! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. The champ is here!" So from that point forward, people realized they were like, oh, that sounds good. That's a good name. And then from there, people started asking me why I was champ, and it was because I don't lose arguments, and I'm always right. So at that point, I win at every argument, so champ is fitting.
RJ Channing, does he win every argument?
That's why me and Champ have such a great relationship, because we both like to win arguments.
Yeah, and so when it gets to the point where it's a stalemate, it no longer becomes an argument. It becomes an exchange of ideas and perspectives and views, and so that way I can preserve RJ's stance of never losing, and I can win,
Yeah. Well, and Champ, he's a gasoline on the fire guy when he feels like he's starting to lose an argument. He is the guy that will say something to Channing and then wink at me very obviously, like, I know I'm wrong, but I'm still just going to inflame the situation as high as I can.
No, it is. I inject energy into situations. If they call that gasoline, then – but no.
That's usually what happens.
On occasion, when I sense that, Channing really has a point of view, a perspective that he's passionate about, that he wants to get out, I'll just give him like a soft nudge, a gentle nudge, and then before you know it, I'll nudge him and I'll walk away, and then I'll let the rest of those guys go at it, and then I'll come back later and kind of squash the fire. So,
do you have a target on the team? Like, is there someone that's easier than others?
I'm just gonna put my own self in there. I sit next to Champ and I talk to Champ the most, literally, because I can't stop talking on the bench. I just can't be quiet. I just don't think. To me, that's not good.
Is it Tristan or Channing?
Huh?
Which one's easier for you to get going?
No. Channing, by far.
Oh, easy. I'll get myself going, and then, he'll hype me getting me going. I'm like, damn, I should have done it. He's like, yeah, you should have done that.
Take Channing on the roaster caller and say, yeah, you should have done that, and then walk away and be like, he shouldn't have done that. Yeah. So we, but it's cool it's cool, because that's the way you keep this thing light around here. You're trying to win. It's such a pressure cooker. So you have to have an opportunity to laugh. And I try to make sure that all my teammates laugh every day, even if it's laughing at themselves, which is usually the funniest.
Oh, I definitely lead the team on that, man.
At laughing at yourself?
Yeah,
I would agree.
Hilarious.
Without a doubt.
Are these guys as comedic relief as people really think they are, Champ?
Our team? Oh, these guys?
These two.
These clowns? Of course.
These clowns.
Without a doubt. I mean, listen, it's very unique that you can find personalities that mesh well. Mm-hmm. And these two have a history together. So, they kind of joke on a different level. And so if you're watching them, watching their interactions, you can tell there's a long history of back and forth.
Bullying.
Bullying, yeah. Oh, bullying. Even though the smaller guy bullies the bigger guy, I still don't know that dynamic.
Yeah, but Richard weigh the same almost.
Nah, that's not even close.
I've been getting such a bad rap as a bully.
No, listen,
Channing, I think it's such a bad rap.
Listen.
And but it's to the point, Champ, now where it's like, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
People
Here we
really
go.
think-
Again, he
just
wants to
from
put
this-
the zipper on it.
Just from this podcast alone, people really think that RJ is way too mean to Channing.
Because they listen to the podcast. They need to see it when it's behind the scenes.
Well, see, what people don't see is like when we're doing the podcast and Channing's like scrolling on his phone, and I'm like, Channing, pay attention. Or Channing is like eating food or getting up and walking away, and I'm like, Channing, we're actually recording. So then it's like if I get an attitude, it's like, focus. Like, yeah. Then all of a sudden it's like, Richard's so mean to Channing. It's like, wait a second. If you guys were in my seat trying to structure this,
Well, first of all, either I had to go get the wine, or I had to pee
By the way,
because of the wine.
he plays the
or I had
victim
to
better
eat
than any
because
actor.
That
you know
is
what?
it.
You need an Oscar.
That is it. He
I
plays
would love an
Oscar.
Oscar.
You
He
played the
plays
victim.
I am
well.
actually not a bad thespian.
No, but we
Thespian?
can tell.
That's what they're called.
No, there's a P.
There's
You said-
thespians.
There's a P. There's a P. It's not with a B.
Oh, I thought
No.
you said.
You said thespian.
Oh, he said. I said.
Did I?
He
Yes.
said. You
Oh,
said.
my
Des-
bad.
You
they
said it
L.
twice.
It's a male.
There's-
It's a male. It's a male. It's a male thesi. We're gonna have to edit that.
You do. No, we're not. Yeah. No, he plays the victim
yeah,
really well.
he does
Jodie
very
Foster in The Accused. He
Without a
plays the-
doubt.
He plays the
Oh
victim.
man,
You know he's a
Gone Girl.
Gone Girl.
Gone
I haven't seen
Girl.
that. I haven't seen that.
Such a good
Get
movie.
out! It was
I
on.
haven't seen
It
it.
was on yesterday.
Have you seen
actually.
Get Out?
No, I haven't seen it. I almost went across the street to
course.
watch that today. But
should go
Gone
there.
Girl, champ,
Was it on like premium channels?
it was on FX.
Oh, I would
Yesterday,
have watched
yeah.
it because I don't have
FX,
premium channels at
low-key.
home.
It was.
all
It
that
is
TV.
so good, but it's one of those movies that at the end you're just mad.
Is it better than Girl on the Train?
Never seen that either.
Is it better than
It's a sequel, right?
Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Ooh,
That is
that?
great. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is
it's
amazing.
great.
I would recommend watching all 4 movies.
Dude,
But,
Gone Girl the book and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo the book were
this boy-
absolutely
Like
ridiculous.
this boy reads.
I read the shit out of those
he
things.
read.
He read.
Like I
What
read
is it
all-
called? The Dragon
reads
with the
comic
tattoo.
book
Girl with
I-
the Dragon Tattoo.
Champ, I just want to say
How
this.
do you
I
put
know
up
this.
with
What I
this?
say.
Like,
seriously,
Champ, no,
see
it's
that,
some. Champ, I just want to say
He's like, I'm not gonna
because
say
people think I am a bully. Champ, you sit next to Channing.
Yeah.
When have you seen him read anything other than comic books in the last year and a half? When? Because he just mentioned books that were popular in the last 3 years.
I haven't seen Shannon read a book.
A
ever.
physical
Ever. I've never
book.
I
seen
read
one.
them at night. They make me sleepy. Books make me sleepy.
Oh,
It's a
the victim
natural
strikes
thing.
again.
The
Here you
victim.
go.
Oh, as a victim. Oh,
Here
Richard,
we
you're just a
go.
bully. So this is
Yeah,
where he
look
throws
at
the
here
word
goes.
bully in there,
I
and
was
I'm the
saying
bad
bully.
guy
I'm not
because
gonna
I
say
know.
bullying. I'm gonna say aggressive pushing.
Because he
You
knows.
said-
It's cool.
You know,
but
it's
that's
cool.
what he does to me. He plays a victim, and everyone turns
You know
against
what?
me.
Let's talk about Champ since he's here. Hey,
And
Champ.
speaking of Champ, the very first year you came back, which was my 3rd year, we had a conversation preseason, Champ, on the elevator. And what I learned about you was that every morning when you wake up, you read the text section of the newspaper.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is amazing. Every morning.
Yeah, I mean, because, that's like the rest of the world, I see history repeats itself. I think the only thing that really changes daily or yearly is technology. Everything else is the same. If you're talking about politics, one party, the next party. If you're talking about who's in power, who's in trouble, there's always a politician doing something illegal. There's always some investigation. If you talk on the world stage, there's always some crime or some terror or something. The only thing that changes on a consistent basis that you may not have seen before is tech. So I stay in tune to tech.
Champ is super smart. I know Champ since
I'm decent.
2000 and
Yeah.
what was that?
Yeah,
7?
we 07, 08,
08,
07,
08 in
08.
Portland.
You guys played together in Portland, huh?
Yeah.
Nate
Well,
McMillan?
we were on the same team.
Sort of
We're on the
played.
same team.
We did. Hey, those 3-on-3 games.
Eiffel Fire.
Listen, Ike Diagu and Shavlik Randolph were some of the best. They were the worst guys to play at 3-on-3 ever. Shout out to Shav
Yeah.
and Ike.
Shav, for sure.
Man.
Shav, those guys, they played too hard.
Dude,
Seriously.
I was like, man, listen, I'm just trying to get some cardio.
I know.
mean,
We're
like,
just out here to go through the motions right
Yeah.
now and make it look good for the coaches.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we got to go. Until someone gets injured, we're not stopping. That's basically how it was.
That's very
it was
productive.
unbelievable. That, I mean, not to keep talking about that, but that was an amazing team. Where now you look at like all that talent that was on that team.
Those
Share
guys.
with us, Channing.
We had like Brandon Roy in his 2nd year,
Brandon
right?
Roy.
Then Marcus Aldrich in his 3rd year. You had Travis Outlaw during his best year ever. You had Joe Prisbilla, one of his better years ever. You had
Martell Webster was there.
Martell Webster, Jared Jack, Steve Blake,
Sergio
That's a-
Rodriguez, who's down in
Sergio
Philly.
Rodriguez.
We had Rafe LaFrance.
Rafe LaFrance was absolutely hilarious.
Yes, he was
comedic.
He was
So, and we weren't allowed to have beers on the bus. Now, Rafe is the oldest, most big, like, now that I'm older, like one of the vettiest vets ever. He would have a shoebox full of beers and then cough every time, like, just to, like, piss off the coaching staff, like, on the back. And he would tell me, Channing, you shoot the crap out of that ball, but I don't know if you're going to be able to do that here. And I said, no, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
Nah, it didn't work
young
out.
and
They ended up
naive.
going to Phoenix.
Little did we know. That was a different time.
It was a different
That was
time.
before the stretch 5.
Way before. But think about if Rafe LaFrance played now, he could have played. Wouldn't he retire when he was 31?
Yes,
Yeah, but he had a
retired,
bad. He had a bad body though.
Yeah,
but he had a jumper. And in
Yeah,
today's
he did
game,
have-
you
he
can
had-
have a bad
he had-
body.
and it was
Super
super-
jump
actually-
shot.
He was a pretty good defender.
Yeah, just tall, long, smart. But yeah, those are interesting days.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had
Lost to
and
Yao
you did.
Ming.
You were on that team too.
Sort of.
Yeah,
Sort of.
on a roster.
I was on the roster.
I
Me
mean,
and you with
but
Joey.
no, we-
We kept asking
Papa
Channing,
Tina.
like, Channing, why don't you ask to be traded? Why don't you ask to be traded? You know, he's kind of,
I know.
too nice of a guy.
Way too nice.
His wife was from Portland.
Oh,
lived in
yeah.
Portland.
No,
he
I
just
asked
didn't
him
wanna
once, I was
go.
like, Channing,
they
why don't
didn't
you
even
leave
sign
Portland?
a qualify. This is the best thing about this. They let Channing go for free. They didn't sign him to a qualifying offer, and because that's my brother right there. The fact that he went to Phoenix, had a career year, and helped put him out of the playoffs the very next year was.
Oh,
I
it
felt like
good.
I was in that playoffs.
We all felt that way.
Oh, it felt good.
It was vindication.
I'm not gonna lie, boy. I was like, hey, Grant Hill and Steve were like, Channing, we see how hyped up you are. We're gonna get you the first 6 shots of this game. I was like, give them to me, give them to me. And then it was barbecue chicken after that.
Well, and it's just to tell you out
We are
there,
good
Champ,
teams,
Champ and I have this agreement, and I'm not. When you're always on the outside looking in, but sometimes when you're on the inside looking in, there are some real bad GMs.
I don't get it.
It was just different.
No, I'm saying when you're on the outside looking in, so you have all these. Let's say like ESPN wants to criticize,
Yeah, all
draft
these
picks or
pundits.
pundits, all these people that can criticize without ever having a penalty of being wrong. Not to let's just say a name, Stephen A. Everyone knows who he is. He can be wrong 100 times in a row and might have a little bit of criticism, but there's no place to really direct the criticism at him. But when you're on the inside, like you're within a team or you're within the NBA and you're looking in at what's going on, like being inside the house, then you start to realize it's like you let a 7-foot guy that can shoot the ball go without a qualifying offer. You could have gotten a 2nd-round pick. You could have gotten a 1st-round pick. You could have got a trade. You could have done something to get
nice.
value versus letting this guy leave for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I signed that.
He signed a
The
minimum
low-
deal. Yeah, he signed
it
a
was
minimum
like-
deal with
yeah,
Phoenix.
It was 2 years, 2 or something like
Yeah,
that. The
so-
first year was
yeah.
like,
It
it was good money. It was good money, but trust me, your boy was on them noodles for a second. Them
No.
ramen noodles was getting hit
But
up.
he
top.
signs a
flavor,
minimum
the
deal.
Oriental flavor or the
With
chicken?
the chicken. I
Oh,
go
I'm
with the
telling you, 'cause
chicken.
I don't eat the beef, but
Oh, no,
super
no.
salty.
Look.
So he signs a minimum deal after they just let him go. He goes to Phoenix and then puts them out of the playoffs the next year. Like that's kind of like the basketball. Like what were you guys doing? Because multiple teams, even when I was in Jersey, Josh Kroenke was in Denver. Both of our teams had called to ask because Channing was just sitting on a bench for an entire year. So we needed help. I think that year. Remember Mikey Moore came
my
and had
goodness.
Mikey Moore.
His
came to us-
mid-range was
yeah,
so
he
nice.
came to
Oh,
us.
my
It's an
God.
old NBA name, but he came to us after being a journeyman. And goes and leads the NBA in field goal percentage because we had everything around
on
him.
jumpers.
Yeah, so it was
on
me.
jumpers.
It was me, Vince Carter, Jason Kidd, Jason Collins. So we had kind of our starting unit. We just needed a big man. So they were calling, trying to get Channing, They wouldn't let him go. And then all of a sudden, he's putting them out of the playoffs next year. And it's like, there's just some
Aw.
real
Oh,
bad
thank
moves out
I mean,
there.
And no,
you
we
know,
had a-
in this league,
yeah.
you can't
Go
let
ahead.
7-footers just walk away. It's not like you have very many
No.
NBA caliber
Skilled.
skilled big men just walking around and actually have proven themselves in games. And so sometimes you wonder.
It's just a different.
You know.
I just think at that time the
There's no
league
excuse.
hadn't been.
No excuse.
There's no
Well, I'm
excuse
gonna
for
give an excuse
7-footers.
because I'm a
There's no
nice guy.
excuse.
I think the thing was, I think they thought like, hey, we just lost to Houston. Is the league going to get bigger?
But humans don't just naturally get bigger over a 2-3 year cycle.
Yeah, true. Okay. I'm trying to make up something,
all
but
I'm
I don't
saying,
really
Chan,
know.
all
It just wasn't the right system.
Here you are in your 13th year, and you're going to play another 7 or 8 years.
No, I'm not, boy.
But whatever.
No, he's not paying.
I know he doesn't like it that much. But what I'm saying is, someone's going to pay him. Someone's going to pay him for
true.
7 years.
Without a doubt, he'll have the opportunity to play
for 7 years
if he so chooses.
And a team let Channing walk for free. Now,
Basically.
like that to me, if I'm an owner, I'm looking at it was like we couldn't get nothing for him. There was nothing that was he a bad kid? No, he's actually a great kid. Did he not work hard? No, he works extremely hard. Did he not have a good basketball IQ? No, he went to Arizona, went to school for 4 years.
See, that might have been it. I would have left that one out.
Yeah, but
he watches film once a month.
Arizona. We know Arizona.
But it was like,
they push
so
out wings.
So why couldn't we get anything from him? Oh yeah, I really don't have an answer to that question.
It just didn't work out.
It just didn't work out right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a different NBA, but there were still 7-footers all across the league. Some of them just didn't play.
You're right.
So
But let's talk
it was
about
just
you.
a down
James.
year. Just a
People
down year.
want to know.
Champ.
Whoa.
That's why I don't respect.
Wow.
He keeps saying James.
Well, no,
We
this
need the
is-
conversation
let's
to continue. If you call him James, it's
No,
gonna be
I'll
a
listen
very
to you. I'll talk to you
one-sided
guys.
conversation.
Hey, Jamp. We'll call you Jamp.
Oh,
It's
here we
James
go.
and Champ. We'll
Allie.
work to the Champ.
Allie, do you want to know something?
What's up?
Because we're going to go back to a dark time, a very, very dark time in sports, in basketball. But James Jones, a.k.a. Champ, was front row center on the court during the Malice at the Palace.
That's what they call it. We just called it the fight.
A little scrum. Just some buddies.
This Malice in the Palace sounds so much better when
drinking
you talk about
fisticuffs.
history and how it looks on a Wikipedia
Well,
page.
I'm trying.
Wikipedia page.
But one of our earlier guests, you'll like this, so you can imagine the illustration that was put out there. One of our earlier guests, Bill Walton, he was doing the game. So Bill was doing the game, and anyone that listened to our earlier podcast, they know that Bill is a wizard with words. Like, he will talk for hours. He will give some off-the-wall illustration. He's like, this is the worst day in the history of America. Not since the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the attacks on 9/11, and now the Malice in the Palace. Like, he is just an over-the-top
dramatic.
person.
That's funny.
So, Champ, take us back.
I mean, it's real simple. That year we were loaded, and we went into Detroit. We were playing really, really well, and I think we were up pretty big. I think we were giving them all they could handle, and so that near the end of the game got kind of chippy, and I think I don't know if on their end somebody fouled, and then on our end
There was a review.
somebody got fouled, and then there was a review, and guys started talking back and forth, and it started with Ron Artest and Ben Wallace. They started jacking back and forth. Ben with his, wristbands around his forearms, flexing, headbands. I'm sorry.
Around his arms.
He's looking, and the guys are going back and forth, and Ron takes off and just kind of like walks to the table. So you have Chauncey on one end talking, you have Rip talking, Jermaine O'Neal and Rasheed Wallace, they were teammates in Portland. So they're going back and forth like, man, listen, just get the game over. And so Ron's sitting on the table, and everybody's like, he's the one that was kind of involved in it. Where is he? He's on the table. Coach Carlisle says, okay, this game's got out of control. Basically, we're up big. No more. James, go get Ron. So I'm walking to the scorer's table. And as I'm walking to the scorer's table, you see a red Solo cup fly down and hit Ron Artest. And so he's laying on the table, and he just takes off into the stands. So he takes off into the stands, and Steven Jackson, who's always itching to start something, Stack Jack just jumps up, climbs over the stands, up in the stands. Next thing I know, he's throwing punches. So he's slinging and throwing, and I'm my second year. I'm sitting here. I was expecting a DNP. I'm sitting here like, man, what's going on?
Y'all gonna mess with my bump right now.
Fight. So Ron's throwing punches. They're going back and forth, and then I just see like you can slowly see the rest of the arena start to.
I'm sorry, at what point of the game is this?
This is
the
the
fourth quarter.
near the end of the game. Maybe
End
the
of
last
the game, okay. Yeah.
minute or so.
Yeah.
So you see the rest of the arena. People start like moving, shuffling. You can see it all, the atmosphere. The guys on the bench stand up. On our team, we kind of step to the court. Their team steps on the court. The two like fans next to us in like Pistons jerseys, they get up. They start. Fred Jones runs up the stands and meets his maker, and then ends up coming back down. And
What
so
do you mean meet his maker? What happened? He met a haymaker. Oh, he got a haymaker and it
Yeah.
came right back down?
And it came back down.
He said,
and so,
go sit back down.
Anthony Johnson at the time was in a cast, so he's on the bench in street clothes. And a guy runs on the court. Jermaine O'Neal stands up, swings and hits a guy and slips. Anthony Johnson tackles a guy. He's down on the kind of like rabbit punching a guy with one arm. And then you just start hearing it. You start seeing bottles, coins, boom, shoes, boom. Everything just starts coming to the court. And it just became total chaos. So I'm standing kind of like right here as Jermaine goes flying by and gets into a scuffle. And then security comes, they grab us. We start going to the locker room. They usher us there. And, I mean, at that point, I had gotten hit with a water bottle on my knuckle, swollen up. Quarters were flying. I don't know if they were using, like, cups for beer or something, but you just seen, like, everything coming down. Purses were coming down. And then David Harrison, one of our rookies, goes up and starts doing something with a guy in a wheelchair and basically snatches the guy in a wheelchair down. And so we get
Hold on now.
Yeah, no,
If y'all don't know how big David Harrison
by the way,
was,
he's
he
like
was
7
7'1",
like
275.
athletic.
Yes, athletic,
He
just gorilla of a man.
Yeah. And so, like, all this is going on. It happens I'd say, in a matter of a minute. It happens so fast. And we get back into the locker room, and it's just like guys are stunned. And then so guys are like, yeah, Stack Jack's like, yeah, man. Like, so guys are basically just amped up. And then Ron just comes back and asks, he's like, yo, son, you think I'm going to get suspended? And at that point we knew our season was in jeopardy because, immediately, we had police personnel. They were moving people out. They came and told us we had to stay in there. We couldn't leave until they cleared the area. And when we got out and got on our bus and we started leaving, people were throwing rocks. They were throwing coins. That we had to sit down with our heads low beneath the glass because we weren't sure whether or not someone might take a shot at us or whatever. And so it was crazy. But then, once the fines came down, that was kind of like reality. And that's when you realize that we're in the entertainment business. It's all about our fans. It's all about perception. It's not going to be tolerated going into the stands and starting fights with fans.
No matter what they do.
It's crazy? Remember when Antonio Davis went into the stands?
Yeah.
I was on the Knicks team when he did that. I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, man, what do you want to do in this coverage? He goes, young fella, hold on 1 sec. Pum, bust right up. Yeah. This dude had his finger in his wife's face. And I heard Antonio in Chicago like, yo, my man, do you have a problem? The guy said, oh, no problem. Toot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, gone.
10 games?
He gone. Oh, he got a lot. I think he did get a lot. He got a lot. I forget, but because so many people.
Man, I'm telling you, I've never been in a brawl. I've been in a couple fights, but never to that magnitude. But it was a scary thought because you talk about having 20,000 people and whoever else is around
against you.
Like in that, how sports is such. Sports
Drinking.
is one of those things. Alcohol, passion, fights. That's not a good recipe. It's a recipe for disaster.
Would you consider the most intense of your career that you've ever experienced thus far?
The most intense atmosphere?
Yeah.
Like as
you know
far
what's so
as
funny
atmosphere?
is we give you guys the questions about playing on the road and the atmospheres that you play in and winning on the road and so forth, but we haven't seen that in forever. No. So it's like,
it's
how much?
Different.
Yeah.
So you're saying like the most intense, like the toughest situation I've ever been in as a player in a game, as far as
let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk.
I would say when we lost in Miami, I think it was game
6.
No,
7.
The game where the air conditioner went out in the arena.
What?
Game 1
in San Antonio.
Game 1 in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I believe in conspiracies.
We have some conspiracy theorists on our team.
I have a theory about conspiracies. And so, unfortunately for us, we ended up going into a situation where the cooling unit, or the AC unit for the entire AT&T Center at the time is out. So you get in there immediately off the bus, and it feels like it's 95 degrees with extreme humidity. Like you're sweating. You get to the locker rooms, and the locker rooms are are like kind of muggy, misty, as if the showers have been on the whole time. And you get into the arena when you're shooting, and you can almost feel like a slickness to the court, and you can just feel how hot it is, and the fans aren't even in there yet. And so once the fans come in, you can see the backboard is foggy. You know,
What?
they have to keep wiping the floors because the condensation from people's perspiration in the building, the humidity is all over the floor. So you go back at halftime, and guys are, literally dehydrated, dripping with sweat. And there's like a box fan to clear our room out, to cool our room. So we end up losing that game. And then, you go down the list later and you find out that they had known that it was out, and they had cooling fans in the other locker room. And so they were prepared for it. No one expects to go into a game where you're playing, and it's like you might as well be playing in a steam room. And so, that's not the reason we lost, because they whooped us. They spanked us. But, for me, that was when I learned that at all costs and by any means necessary, when the schedule is the schedule, it's going to be played. And regardless if it's fair, regardless if it makes sense, regardless if it's completely safe, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that those games are played. And so it ended up being a heck of a game. But for me, that was tough, because you talk about game one of the finals. And even if you lose a series and if you get whooped, you still know – we all know that game one of every series is the most important series, the most important game of the series.
Unless it's the 2016.
Oh, jeez, Allie.
Good
Way
to bring
it back.
I'm just kidding.
So Champ, you've been doing this a while. Me and you are the resident grumpy guys on
I'm
the
not
team.
grumpy.
Yeah, whatever.
That's usually what a person says when they deny it. Not me.
Yeah. Not defensive.
I'm not great grumpy.
But on Twitter today we saw it's something that's kind of cool. But the LPGA, right? Is that LPGA? They started a podcast. Some of the kind of road to the tour. They started a podcast very, very similar.
It's called Road Chippin'.
Road chipping.
Yeah,
It's
Channing
not
Clark-
road
It's
tripping,
not
but I
road
like
chipping.
that.
But
I like that.
they started a podcast similar to this, and you've been around this, and you're big on having your own voice. You know that media is changing. Media is kind of dying. You're big into tech, and you see SportsCenter is, I wouldn't say struggling, but it's going like sports. The way they cover sports is changing. What do you see in the next kind of couple years, or what are your kind of ideas for, just how sports is going to be covered? Probably changing before we're done.
Well, you guys hit it on the head when you talk about interaction, with the fans and with the source. Players, we're the source. That's people come to the arena, they come to get our sound bites right before the game, right after the game, in game, because that's the beauty of sports. Sports is that instantaneous thing that gives you instant gratification. But if you kind of consume it in a delayed fashion, it doesn't hold the same appeal.
Yeah.
And so you want that proximity, you want that access, you want it to be immediate. And you don't want it to be stale, where it's been reported on 95 times by 95 different people.
Yeah.
You want to go right to the source. And so as the game continues to change in every sport, when you have the instant access, you can stream sports live on your phone rather than having to wait and watch a replay at night or watch SportsCenter to see whether or not they cover the highlights that you want. You can get it directly on your phone. I think more than anything, it's a constant connection to the game. It's either analyzing it, reviewing it, previewing it, or critiquing it and announcing it. But as the players become more articulate, and understand that media dynamic, I think it's tough. You see print media struggling.
Oof.
I think it will continue to struggle because we're in a tech society and everyone's digital. And so
But the visual, that's the thing, is
the
the visual medium is starting to struggle, because now, like I said, we talked about this on the podcast before. You or I or whoever can make a play in a first quarter, and at halftime we can see the play on our phones. You can go to House of Highlights. You can go to this. You can see it so many different places. So people don't have to watch the evening SportsCenter right? You don't have to watch the morning Sports Center. You can literally follow your own team, get all the highlights, see it on Twitter. Each team now carries their own Twitters and shows the highlights from each game leading up until halftime. Then in the third quarter. So it's like teams' Twitter are now covering each sport. You know, you'll see the first quarter highlights, second quarter highlights, third quarter highlights. So before you even, before the game's even done, you've seen 15 highlights from the game. You know the score. Do you really need to watch SportsCenter at that point in time?
No, that's why it's difficult. I said people we're in their mobile age. I talk about like just our job, like we as professionals. They ask us, we're on the road, we're road tripping. I said, man, we're in the mobile office. We're at work on the road all the time. We're putting in our work all the time, consistently. And so the NBA work day for us starts when we wake up until we go to sleep, maybe 26 hours later. So it's I'm telling you, man, it's big, and it's there's so many layers to it. It's kind of hard to predict because TV was very just like I said, just linear. It was TV. At one point, the TV used to go off at like 10 o'clock. Now it's at 24. You have ESPN News. They used to run 24 hours on a loop. And by the time you watch it 10 minutes in, you're replaying the same highlight.
Yeah.
That era is dead because people are starting to do more. They're out. They're active. And like you said, why watch SportsCenter if you can scroll through a Twitter feed, see all the highlights, and do it all in 2 minutes?
You know what I'm saying? Like, so many more people are now into, like, with the digital age, so many more people in America are now into, like, Premier League soccer.
Yeah.
They're transferring over from, like, Australian rules football or cricket or, different
But who really
leagues.
cares about watching a highlight that's probably just two different players
Yeah.
in different jerseys doing the same thing someone else did? Now, what
You
they
wanna
want
see
is tidbits,
everybody.
and they want to see everything, but they also want to see what's behind the curtain.
Yeah.
They want to hear, and learn about the guys they're watching every night, and they're following, they're paying their good money to see.
Speaking of business of basketball, champion, you work for the Players Association.
Technically, I don't work for the Players Association. I don't get paid for it.
You
What?
but you can still work in
I
a
don't get
nonprofit and still not get paid.
You don't get
I'm
paid
still
for
working.
that?
I don't get paid for it.
That's not included?
No, I mean,
What is your title? What is your title for the Players Association?
I am Secretary Treasurer for the National Basketball Players Association.
You've always come across as a secretary to me.
Yeah, it is. You know what that means? It's just a guy who keeps paper.
Champ is a numbers guy, man.
What
It's
was your major in
absolutely
college?
Finance.
Told you.
International Finance.
He's a numbers guy, man.
Did you graduate?
Yes, I did.
Of course.
I
There's two of
graduated.
us.
Repping his Hurricanes.
Knuckles.
hat.
I graduated in 4 years because I wasn't good enough to go to the NBA after 2 years. 3 years.
Work
4 years.
Work
You went
Hard
all
on
four?
4 years.
You
Yeah.
went all
Work
four?
harder.
I only heard about you for 1 year, so it's crazy.
Yeah, it was his last year. It was his last year.
I only let's keep it 100. You only heard about me the last for 2 months.
Tournament.
Yeah.
You put in
Yeah,
your work.
the tournament.
You got buckets.
Hey, I went from they were like late second round, mid first to top
of-
10. Got him, and I'm here now.
4 with the fifth.
And then
that
he
means
got- and
4
then-
guaranteed with the fifth most likely coming.
Did that all happen during the tournament?
Quick.
No,
It was
no,
quick.
no. It
No, I
happened.
promise you.
It happened like the last probably 8 or 9 games of the pack. Like you'd had a
Oh,
good
yeah,
solid
yeah,
season, but then the last 10 games of the pack,
Yeah.
you were balling.
That was crazy, though. You know what was crazy? I'm not going to toot my own horn.
No, go ahead.
Listen, we played Washington State. At that time, they were really good on the road. Really too tough place to play because Pullman, those games are just boring out of your skull. And they were just a very run the not a triangle, but basically run like a 4-out 1-end system. And Washington always has players. They had Nate Robinson, Trey Simmons, Will
stay with
Conroy.
talent.
Right. So I literally was 28 for 30 with 30-something rebounds and 15 blocks and didn't even win Player of the Week. They gave it to Ike Diago, who shot 40-something free throws, and both their team lost both games. Man, I was
That's crazy.
sick.
No.
It was my only chance to win.
Yeah.
I didn't get it once.
Where's Ike now?
Oh, he's probably living. He's happy.
So see, look at Champ.
He's in Japan.
Champ's just starting some stuff right
He's
here.
in Japan.
You just winked at Richard. Okay, so that was your major, and we talked about Channing playing 7 more years.
Oh, no.
Champ, how much longer you got?
So these checks stop.
Till the check stop, but this is 14. I want to play 15, and I'm done. I've always said I never expected to be in the NBA more than 5 or 6 years.
Really?
I wasn't a guy that was well known on the circuit. So when I saw I had an opportunity to play in the NBA, I figured it'd be the hard road where, if I'm lucky, I'll get drafted, hopefully early second round, give you a better chance of sticking, or late first round, which will give you the 4 guaranteed in the 5th year. So I was like, if I can, as a second round pick, get to 2 contracts, it'll be tough, but I have no gripes about that.
What pick were you?
I was a 49th pick in the 2003 draft, and Kyle Korver was the 51st.
That's crazy.
And so
y'all two are some of the best.
And
The only
Steve
two
Blake,
shooters that are
my
better
guy
than
Steve Blake. Steve Blake was, I think, like the 33rd.
Damn.
And so Udonis Haslem, my good friend, didn't even get drafted. So, that was the type of guys I was with. And, you look at the history and the numbers, you usually say a second-round pick, a guy will play 4 or 5 years, get a second contract, be done. So
Yeah, most
I get
second-round
the
picks
15,
most
I'm happy.
second-round picks don't see a second contract.
No, I mean it's crazy because it used to be like you were a second round pick, you just automatically assume that you were going to get a $50,000 signing bonus for training camp and that you'd be over in Europe, and so that was my real possibility. But I was blessed to be able to be drafted by Indiana, and they had a veteran team that was already built, and they could stash me away, so they allowed me to.
Would you ever
collect
play
checks.
overseas?
Me? I had considered it. I mean, look, I was a finance guy. So for me, it
What's
was
the
like,
numbers? What's the numbers look like?
What do the numbers look like? How much can I save?
Okay,
How
Greece.
can it start?
I said Greece.
Man, listen, when you're a 22-year-old kid.
Now
23-year-old
he
kid-
wouldn't.
But right now?
Yeah.
No way.
No way.
No, man. I played 14 years, 3 championships, 6 finals.
You would never go to Australia for a year. They were like,
No.
we'll give you $5 million.
Man, he's got 3 kids.
They can give
He
me
grew up like
$5 million. At some, look, you reach a point, and this is a finance term, but you reach a point of diminishing returns. It's like I played basketball because I loved it. I wanted to win championships. I wanted to win NBA championships. I can go overseas and make money, but I'm not going to win an NBA championship. So I'm not going overseas.
Yeah,
That's
true.
simple.
Well,
True
and the
99.
amount of money that you save when you basically save that that percentage and what your return will be on that, what you're going to be able to live off of, is like I'm going to take a year or 2 years away from my kids, and I'm going to go make $5 million, which basically is going to be like that's an extra $60,000 a year for me to spend, $70,000 a year for me to spend. That's not really worth it in the long term.
And I said it from day one. I've always said that's what my kids are with me. My wife and my kids are with me. I've always said wherever I go, they go, and so there's no way I'm moving my family to Australia to play basketball. Australia?
So
Channing will be forced to go. Channing will be forced to go continue making money.
I'll
So-
give it a chance.
Like, honestly, people from the outside probably think that this team is, these guys are, they have such a good time. They're so funny. They're so easygoing. They're so lax.
Nope.
We are psychos.
But once you tip it up or once you make it competitive, we aren't friends.
It's bad.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It
There's
gets
no
bad
love.
sometimes.
There's no love. And, but once you call it, no more competition.
But that's also why
We'll go back to it.
why Champ likes throwing gasoline on the fire.
Oh, man.
He'll be like, "Damn, Rich, you gonna let Channing just do that like that?" And like he knows that everyone has that competitive chord. That all you gotta do is strike it a little bit.
I remember when I first got here
It's
last
gentle
year.
nudging. It's a book
man.
called Nudge. It's
Oh.
a great book. Read it.
our listeners love book recommendations.
Just the book
What's-
Nudge.
Give
I
us
can't
two. Give us 2 books, Champ. Give us 2.
I'm reading one. I just finished reading one the other day. Never Split the Difference. It's a book on negotiation. I really, really like it. Life is a negotiation. Just about every conversation, every interaction with people is a negotiation. So you have to decide how you deal with them and what your approach would be. And so that's one. And then let me think of another one.
Green eggs and ham.
Do you see? Do you see what I deal with? Do you see what I deal with? Do you see?
Oh, yeah.
Do you
Of
see
course.
what I
Like
deal
that's
with?
not a classic.
Do you see
And-
what I deal with? And then if I say something like
Rich, you throw
Damn it,
out
Channing.
some book
And
recommendations.
then the other
okay?
one is another one called Simple Rules.
Simple
It's
Rules.
a business book. It just talks about rules.
you want me to throw out a book
Yeah.
recommendation? It's going to be
Please.
very similar to Channing's, definitely. Very, very similar.
What is it? You got it? No.
No,
Move
it's
on.
green eggs and ham
Okay,
too.
since we're on this, book
Green eggs and ham and bacon.
book thought, let's get
And
on
pork.
a fun topic
Please.
in terms of your smartness.
Oh, thank you, Allie.
Are you book smart or street smart?
Oh.
Me?
Both.
I'm both.
and humble.
I'm both.
Very,
I
very
really,
humble.
I'm both.
You really think so?
I know. I mean, it depends which streets you're talking about. If you're talking about Wall Street, no, there's sharks out there. I can't fade those guys. They take people's money every day, so I can't really mess with them. But if you're talking about like hood street smart, like navigating the rough inner streets of Miami,
Of where to
cocaine
go,
cowboys,
where not to go, when to be there, who to mess with, who not to mess with.
Excuse me.
dealing with the Cuban mafia down there. If you're dealing with Zopound out there in the Haitian community.
So if you were found in a dark alley, if I was found in a dark alley, I would want to be next to Champ.
Without a doubt.
Well, Champ wouldn't be down
Right
that
there.
alley. He'd be at the
No, if
entrance.
you
like,
find a
yo, you
hey,
in trouble.
I just want to be somebody.
If
I
If
just
you were
want to be
down,
next to
if you were down a dark alley with me, it would be an alley that's probably lit with LED lights, and the lights just went off.
Right, exactly. On purpose.
I want to be in an alley with somebody I can outrun.
Oh, man.
That's,
You can't outrun anyone.
Richard low-key is fast at times.
at,
He has
At
burst,
times.
He has burst speed.
what
He
are you
has
talking
that.
about?
He's fear fast.
You can jump a fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he can jump.
Yeah,
Sure.
I can jump. I can jump. That's it's all about.
Channing,
getting
are you
going.
book smart or street smart?
Oh God. But
You know,
RJ.
see,
He
RJ
plays the
just
victim
can't
very
help it.
well.
That's
You,
all right,
you-
sorry.
you just saw how he puffed
Can-
out his
can-
chest and
can-
then tried to
can-
sink in his chair.
continue answering the question, Channing.
I don't know, to be honest.
He's comic book smart.
No, I stay in my lane. Listen, nerd community, embrace me. No, I would probably have to say like street smart because I think like book stuff changes all the time. Like, and so it's hard for me to keep up with all that. So I know what I like, and if I love something, I'm gonna get involved and dive into it.
2,
But
3, 4,
Are you a fighter?
5,
no,
6,
not at all. Unless like
7.
it takes a
8,
lot for me to get really mad.
Oh, did they tell you about when he wanted to fight us though in the locker room?
Yeah, we
Yes.
told
He's
that
a
story.
fighter.
Oh,
yeah. He
can
wanted
you
to fight
give
us.
us? Can you give us how the story went?
The egg roll
Okay,
night.
so
Go
I'll
ahead,
tell you how
tell
it
me, I already
happened.
know.
It's worth it.
Little did I know Channing had a bad game before we actually had this conversation because I wasn't really paying attention to his stat line. I think he was like 1 for 16 or something like that.
It was like 1 for 11.
So he's 1 for 11,
Happens.
and so he wasn't really feeling that great. He was kind of putting a lot of pressure on himself. And so coach breaks it down, and we're done. And so Channing proceeds after our meeting. I'm pretty sure he just took his tape off, probably just put his tights in his bag, mesh bag, probably was picking at his toes or something like that, tying his shoes up, taking his orthotics out. So he's touching his feet, everything, took his tights off, put his towel around his waist, and then he just proceeds to go directly to the food table. Where the food,
lids.
There's
The lids.
there's fruit on the table with tongs where you can grab it, so it's open fruit. Probably like some almond butter that's open, salad that's open, and then they had the food trays where you
Are
can
they-
move the lid back.
There we go.
You
But
can
were
move
they
the lid.
closed?
You can move the lid back. I can't really tell because I'm situated behind him, and so Channing proceeds to just start grabbing, and so you have to understand that if the table is right here. If you go 2 feet to the left of the table and go 3 steps forward, you'll be at the sink where you can wash your hands. So Channing proceeds right after the game to walk up there without washing his hands and so we're like, Channing, can you at least wash your hands?
Oh.
No.
So-
We. There was one person that said it first.
No,
and then
so
it just,
I think you said it. No, did
No.
Bron say it first?
Braun.
Said it first, and so Braun sits at the end. So I think everyone's like, yeah, I'm the last one. So everyone proceeds to say, Channing, wash your hands, man. You can at least wash your hands. And he's like, yo, man. And then
just
I get to
looking.
the end. I was like, but I'm the one that says, it's cool, Channing. It's not an issue that the bathroom is literally like 3 feet away.
Yes.
And that sent him over the top.
Oh.
So you want to say I stoked the fire, put gas on the situation? I just gave him an alternative. And man, listen, I don't need you guys telling me what to do. I don't need 5 people to tell me. I'm just touching the 10. And I'm like, well, Channing, other people who wash their hands will have to touch that 10 before they. But you know what? Hey, you want to fight me for telling you to wash your hands? And so that's the first time I was almost ever got into a fight for telling a guy to wash his hands.
Yeah.
So
That
that
was
was
it.
a fight.
And low key,
A
I'm
fight.
not going to snitch, but I'm snitching like a mofo right now. Richard does it almost every game, and nobody says nothing, man. Every game I see Richard walk over there, tink, and he's opening everything.
But
Richard
I'm just
also,
like,
when the media was in the locker room, took guacamole and threw it at the shower door. Okay, and left it there.
He did that for real?
Yeah, he did it for real. He took guacamole on a chip and threw it at the door that goes
Do you
to the
remember?
shower.
Hey, do they have footage of it? Do they have?
Do you remember when Donald
video footage?
Trump was talking about locker room talk?
Wow.
What happens inside the locker room needs to stay. I have one person snitching about guacamole, another person snitching about I didn't wash my hands.
You didn't hear me. I said, but do they have video footage?
Hopefully they don't have videos.
All
in the
right,
locker room.
all right. Then you can deny it all.
Well, no, I'm not going to deny it.
So it's true.
No, I'm not saying that either. What
He knows he threw it.
what I want to address here is my two
Co-host.
co-hosts.
So I actually think
I'm not snitching. But
Actually, by the way,
if you're
I
not-
think you're the one that's being bullied.
100%.
Just my
my
observation is that you're the one that's being
No,
bullied.
you're absolutely right.
Both
James.
of them just verbally abused.
Woe
James, you're
is
right.
me.
I'm sorry, Richard.
I'm not. Richard,
I
are you
I
street
made that story up. I made that story up because I felt like you weren't being included in the conversation. So I'm sorry.
So now you made something up and you're lying about something at the same time.
I did not make anything up, and I am not feeling sorry for you. Are you book smart or street smart, Richard?
I think it's equal parts 50-50. It's equal parts 50-50 because
You failed PE.
no, yeah, that's from a lack of caring.
Champ,
but
did you know
I'm
that?
saying I'm not this person. I'm not a person that is like overly well read, even though I try and gather knowledge. And I'm not
You
a person.
know a little bit about a lot of things.
Yes, a little bit. So you can kind of speak intelligently on the surface, but I'm also not a person that because I moved to a nicer area when I was a kid, I'm not a person that has this like crazy street smart. I know where I'm not going. I know where I'm not involved. It's like, okay, for instance, you remember when the guys got in trouble at One Oak and the stabbing and all that stuff happened with Cephalosha? And I lived in New York and I was at One Oak probably 100 times. I never had an altercation. True. I never had an altercation because my thing was like, okay, this doesn't look right. I'm leaving. It wasn't like, wait, what's going on?
So you're talking the difference you're talking about is between street smarts and street cred. I have zero street cred.
I have zero street cred.
Oh, I got maybe one or two.
No, I mean,
I'm
if they
not
give me
looking
street
for-
cred, it's because I'm from the neighborhood and they can relate to me and they respect me and they want me to do well. But it's not because I maneuvered in the streets and I knew everyone, all the tough guys.
That's it. So
tough guys never saw me.
And that's what I'm saying. So I know how to avoid situations that just don't look right. I will get more defensive when I start to feel uncomfortable. Like if someone's walking like 5 feet behind me, because I walk fast. So if someone's walking behind me and I keep looking over my shoulder like, yo, why are you so close to me? But yeah, I'm not like I said, I'm not overly well read, and I'm not this kid that grew up on these mean streets and had to navigate them. But I know how to avoid things, and I feel like I can, navigate,
I diffuse
conversations.
everything with laughter.
You?
That's
Oh
me.
God.
Oh, yeah.
I would agree, Channing. I would agree. That is a well said statement. Channing's not. Our Champ's not amused.
No, not at all.
That wouldn't work in Miami?
What? Laughter?
Diffusing it with laughter?
No, it would, but it wouldn't. No,
It would still get robbed.
Yeah.
Champ, what are your thoughts on guys that are looking for street cred still after they've navigated said streets, after they've made it to a college, after they've gotten into a position where they can financially afford to be in a good position, but still go searching for said street cred. Let's go Plaxico Burress and carrying a gun into a club and shoots himself in the leg. Now, one of the things before we continue on this, is not a knock on Plaxico. Everybody makes mistakes. I would never go to a place as a professional athlete where I would need to carry a gun for security. That is just me. So that is when you go street smart. Am I smart enough to not be in a position where I ever have to carry a gun, even though I've made millions of dollars, even though I won a Super Bowl? Yes. From that sense, I am pretty street smart.
Yeah. No. Well, to me, it makes no sense whatsoever. But it's very guys. It's tough for guys to put themselves in uncomfortable positions. What I mean is, you gotta have guys that come from the street and guys that get in, run with those circles and they become comfortable with that. But once you reach this level, we all sacrifice and do everything to make it to this level, to go forward, not to go back. And so too many guys go forward and then they want to go back and say, hey, I'm taking, everything I did back to the place where, that made me. And it's usually a recipe for disaster. But no, I'm with you. Like, first off, if I'm not carrying a gun, I'm supposed to be.
You have the money.
I'm
get
supposed
a
to be
guy
partying.
I'm supposed to be partying.
I'm supposed to be partying.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be out here. This isn't like police academy where I'm training with targets. You just, you know what? Where you guys going? Cool. I'm going over there.
Yeah. That's what Chris Rock said. He was like, never go to parties with metal detectors. Sure,
This is
you
true.
feel safe on the inside,
This is true.
but all the niggas outside know that you don't have a weapon.
I want, like I said, I like to be incognito. So even if I do go out, I want to go somewhere where it's like, I don't want to go to a place where they're like, "Hey, James Jones, what's up, James? How you doing, man?" I want to go to people who are like, "Hey, man, you're tall. How you doing? Let me buy you a drink. What's your name?"
If I hit what's near me and there's not like a Pinkberry or a Bed
Whole
Bath &
Foods.
Beyond or a Whole Foods, I'm not messing with it.
Man,
I'm
a
gotta eat
homebody,
good.
man.
I've been on 6 different teams. I guarantee you I've never lived more than 2 miles away from a Whole Foods. I promise you that. Where's the location? Oh, this is not nice. Where's nearest Whole Foods? Oh, well, they're thinking about building. Yeah, well, I'm thinking about not living around here.
Right. Where's the Starbucks?
Yes. Well, no,
Nah,
Starbucks.
Starbucks go anywhere now. You gotta be
Starbucks,
careful.
you got
Starbucks. They can put Starbucks
You
in
got
the
The
hood.
good Starbucks, the drive-through Starbucks.
I don't say
No, they have Starbucks drive-throughs in the hood too.
Do they?
I don't say
Yeah.
good Starbucks anymore. You can't. That's just like
Yeah.
no. You have to literally. It's Pinkberry, Bed Bath & Beyond, Whole Foods. Whole Foods.
Bed Bath Beyond. It's
Bed
kind
Bath & Beyond is a
it's
lot
kind
of
sketchy on the
as seen on
edge
TV
too
stuff.
now.
Okay,
Whole
let me rephrase
Foods
it.
is a gift. Whole Foods is
Whole
definitely
Foods.
the winner.
Okay, I'll give you the other one that we will all agree on. Apple Store.
but I doubt. They're not putting
Not even
That's like,
close.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Are
no,
you
real talk. But
serious?
he's right.
Think
No,
If
I
you're
know
anywhere
he's
near
right,
Apple
but
Store,
it's obvious.
Well, no, I said I know we would all agree on it. I knew it was obvious that we had mentioned like 5 or 6 different retail places.
They don't just plop Apple stores anywhere, though.
No, and
That's
and
what we're
I don't
saying,
and
yeah.
I don't plop my butt anywhere either, to tell you the truth.
it's the truth.
No, no, and
This
this
is
is
true.
not. Look, this is not to knock people that come from different backgrounds. My grandmother still lives in Oakland. My father lives in a retirement community in Compton, California, and I will drop them off. I will see you from the hours of this and this, and that's not only because they tell us this in rookie transition. You are a target.
But I doubt.
You are a target. I remember Kanye talked about in one of his songs that he had to pay $250,000 from somebody, one of his family members, because he had things on a laptop. And it's like you are a target not only for your family but your friends, people that know. Oh, what are you doing? It could be your cousin talking to her best friend. Oh, well, Richard's gonna come by and bring gifts for my little nephews. So then what happens? She's like, oh yeah, well so and so is gonna be there. You hear people getting set up all the time.
It's about being well rounded.
Yeah.
And so for me, my family's still in Miami. I love my family. I go everywhere. I love the spots down in Overtown. I love the spots in Liberty City, North Miami. I live in Broward now. I'm all over the city, but you really just do it to have a wide perspective. And so where do I spend most of my time with my kids? Are in places where we have parks, where we have horses. The things that
didn't
weren't
get
a
to see
part of my
growing up,
world
yeah.
growing up. And so, that's my take.
I'll
on it.
always be amazed with people that have an opportunity to better themselves in their environment and get a chance to leave it, but somehow get drawn back to that environment. And like I said, you should always give back to the communities that help raise you. You should always do things for the individuals that help supported you. The kids that are in, a similar environment and a similar position as you. You should always give back. That being said, do them in business hours.
What do you guys do? What do you guys do as far as community? Because one of the things I do, I'm very proud of this, is in the summer I have this thing I call Camps for Champs and Crew 22. It started with Camps for Champs. I started doing something with DCF, Department of Children and Families, a few years ago. Changed it up and did this thing which I call Crew 22. And so every summer I take kids out of the homeless system, out of like the juvenile justice system, and for a week I take them to a college campus, usually FIU North, and they get campus tours. We did an overnight camp. We do a lot of interactive team building things with them, and that's how I stay connected to the neighborhood. It's not going back and spending my time on the corner and being out in the parks and just being visible and out in the hot spots and out at the parties. For me, it's connecting with the kids that are in that neighborhood to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I can be. This is what you can be. This is a road or a path to get out of an adverse situation. So you can be me. You can be Channing. You can be RJ, and then go back and provide a pathway for other kids to come out too. So
when I have 9 nieces and nephews. So me going back and giving back to them.
Oh yeah, just
typically
go home.
I just go home, and I will be paying for a couple of them to go. When my niece is going to college,
That's
she's
amazing.
going to Arizona this year, and I was the first one in my family to go to a 4-year university. So the fact that just the very next generation, I'm able to help go to college, and she's going to Arizona this fall. My nephew just applied, so that'll be awesome. Channing, how do you give back to the mean streets of Chandler?
I don't get back to Chandler. I do things I try to do things like
nothing, basically. So he's basically saying nothing.
You know
Channing,
what's funny? Y'all
Channing, you
gonna
don't
feel
have to have a
stupid in
story.
couple seconds. No, that's all right.
You don't have to have a story.
No. Every year I donate up to $250,000. I just do it without.
So what will I have to
knowing.
do? So who do you give it to?
Well, I gave a certain amount of money to the KCI Institute to help my daughter.
Yeah, your daughter.
Have eyes,
Yes.
and then not have eyes, but to see. And I gave money to the same people who helped me get back to playing basketball down at Johns Hopkins.
See, no, those are great.
See, those
causes.
are great things.
But see,
People
those are
don't know
great
about it.
causes that are near and dear to your heart.
Without a doubt.
Well, yeah, literally. Yeah, literally. And then I just get back, I'll just say, what does the school need?
Wow.
I saw it from Larry Fitzgerald, actually, in Phoenix. He just walked up to a school. It was, I think, one of the worst junior highs in Phoenix. And he was like, what do y'all need? And they were he's like, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to give me a list. And they literally gave him a 2-page list. And 2 days later, he came in a truck.
Yeah.
With all it was, you would think it would be we need laptops. We need this. They're no, we just need new math books, some pencils and papers, and we need money because kids don't have meals. And I think that's another thing I donated to. Was that kids don't have food in the morning because their parents work, and they're like, "Here, get ready, get dressed," and they go off to work, and here, catch the bus. So
Free
the
lunch,
kids come to school.
free lunch, free breakfast.
Yeah, man, it's pretty important. So I did some things with that out in Orlando, and just things that come up to my mind. But yeah, I'm in there, but I just don't want all that recognition. I think people should do what they want to do. And then James's thing is extremely admirable. I don't know.
No, I see. I differ. That's where I differ. I think a lot of times because we're just so. People always, we're very conscious of not coming across as disingenuous and showmen and doing things for political reasons or for popular reasons. But our guys do a lot. Athletes in general, we do a lot for our communities. And I think people need to know more about that because it dispels this notion. Yeah, it dispels this notion that all we do is just play a game that we love. We get paid a lot of money to just play a game.
Tell him, champ. I donated a couple dollars to my college.
Without a doubt. I mean,
oh my God!
higher
Put
education.
your name on it.
No, the money. It doesn't matter what you get in return. It's what they do with the money. Higher education.
I gave some money to U of A too to get a brick.
Richard, were you born in the 70s?
What?
Were you born in the 70s?
Kiss my ass.
Were you born in the 70s?
Yes, he was born in the 70s.
I was born in 1980. Thank you.
No, you were not.
Yes, I was. Why would I lie?
You were born in 1979.
Okay, so I'll be 37. It is 2017. I'll be 37 in June. Yeah, Google it, Channing. Show us your street smarts.
How do we know your birth certificate is real?
Because I'm not President Obama.
Hey, Kyrie.
Because I'm not Barack Obama. That's how you know mine is real. Did you find it, Channing?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was
How
born
old
in
am I?
June 1980.
36? 36 and change?
36. He'll be 37.
1980.
Yes, 1980. I don't.
What's wrong with being born in in the 70s?
I'm not. I've played against guys that were born.
In the 60s.
In the 60s, I played against guys that were born in the 60s. I think the closest person I think was 61. I almost played against somebody born because if I was a rookie and they were 40,
like Robert Parrish or someone. You played with Robert Parrish? He was in the league when you were there.
He might. That might
Could
have been
you
his
play
last
till
year.
you're 40?
Me? Yes. If Vince could do it, I could.
Yes.
It's his main motivation for everything.
What?
Vince?
If Vince
could do- if
Richard
Vince-
stretches extra hard the next day.
Yeah, if Vince can do it, I can. And I think you know what? I'm going to change this right here, right now. I'm going to tell everybody. As long as Vince plays, I'm going to play one day longer than him. One day. So if Vince decides to sign a 2-year contract, and people ask
You
me,
know what? If that's the
oh,
case, I'm playing until I'm 42.
There we go. When you got a ratchet like you, champ, I'm just saying I'm going to play.
I'm playing until
I'm going to play
I'm
till I'm 40.
again.
I'm going to get 20 years in.
Wow.
I'm at 16. I feel if I'm at 16 and I'm still dunking on people, I can play for 2 more years and then just steal for 2 more years after that.
Will we see Bron and Bronny Jr. in the league at the same time?
No.
What?
No.
How old will Braun have to be?
Well, I only
Brian had to be like, I don't know.
Bronny Jr. is 12?
12, so you're talking about another 8 years? Braun will be 39.
Six years.
I will only say this.
That one and done rule will be gone by that time.
No, the only
not until the next CBA.
Allie,
They can't do anything.
I think there was some heat given to a person who will remain nameless about mentioning Braun's kids, so we could not.
He doesn't care.
No, I'm kidding.
The
guy. Oh,
the guy.
The ball. Yeah, no, he's an idiot.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
No, I think
TV.
his son has that chance, but will Braun?
He'll be
That's tough.
doing upper stuff.
Hey, champ, we appreciate you.
When are we doing
Thank
this
you.
again, champ?
Oh, just let me know.
Because I have a feeling that we're gonna get in trouble for some of the things that we said in this.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. Like, we can do it again whenever you guys want to do it. down for whatever.
Champ gives the people what they want.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Champ.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
All right, for this edition of Road Trippin' with RJ and Channing. For Richard Jefferson. James Jones, the champ. Channing Frye. I'm your host, Allie.